Gulf spill is a tragedy that never should have happened. I'm Tony Hayward. BP has taken full responsibility for cleaning up the spill in the Gulf. We've helped organise the largest environmental response in this country's history. More than 2 million feet of boom, 30 planes and over 1,300 boats are working to protect the shoreline. To those affected and your families, I'm deeply sorry. The Gulf is home for thousands of BP employees, and we all feel the impact.
He is frustrated because he cares about the small people, and we care about the small people. I hear comments sometimes that large oil companies are greedy companies or don't care, but that is not the case in BP. We care about the small people.
Words always make good public relations. Not resting till we get this right, and we care about the small people. Yeah, right. But it's the follow-up, the action, that anyone really cares about. And it's hardly surprising that BP is adding their cleanup contractors, some of those little, small people that BP so warmly referred to their long list of its victims. Contractors say they are still owed hundreds of millions of dollars for their work in the Gulf oil spill cleanup. And some of these hardworking little, small people are cleanup contractors like Chad and Charlie Blanchard of Charlie's Restaurant and Catering, who BP hired to provide catering services for BP's personnel and contractors engaged in the cleanup effort in Hopedale, Louisiana. BP agreed to have Charlie's Restaurant provide 1,200 guaranteed meals each day to their cleanup workers. Charlie's Restaurant performed its job with flying colors, but BP terminated their agreement after only 30 days, and then refused to pay Charlie's invoice that BP had guaranteed, which totaled almost $200,000 and basically almost put Charlie's Restaurant out of business. Today, the Insider Exclusive examines in depth in this special TV presentation Oil Spill Contractors, BP Oil's Problems, and the manner in which BP Oil is adding insult to injury by hurting the very same people that their chairman swore to care about, the small people, and not rest till they got their catastrophe right. We will show you how Chad and Charlie Blanchard's lawyer, Bruce Betzer, of the law offices of Bruce Betzer, is getting justice for Chad and Charlie. Bruce has earned the highest respect from citizens and lawyers alike as one of the best trial lawyers in New Orleans, Louisiana, and in the nation. He has seen many innocent and hardworking people become victims of this BP oil spill and cleanup. He understands that corporate irresponsibility and double talk is a major problem. And the problem is not just in New Orleans, but nationwide, and its nature is institutionalized. And because of that, he is driven to fight for people who have been harmed by the willful or negligent actions of others. His goals, not only to get justice for his clients, but to make sure all corporations walk their talk, live up to what they say publicly, because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Hi, I'm Steve Murphy, and this is the Insider Exclusive, live from St. Bernard Parish in New Orleans, Louisiana, at Charlie's Restaurant and Catering. Today we are at Charlie's Restaurant and Catering, and with me I have Bruce Betzer, the attorney for Charlie's Restaurant. Welcome to the show, Bruce.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your firm.
It's a small firm.
Yeah.
2 attorneys. Following Katrina, went on my own, 2005. Specialized mainly in personal injury. Mm-hmm. Everything from your run-of-the-mill car accident, medical malpractice, stuff like that. And following Katrina, introduced my law firm to insurance claims, insurance litigation,
right.
And that turned out to be very lucrative for a lot of attorneys, although it was a hard fight. Most insurance companies didn't want to pay, and that ultimately led to a lot of lawsuits and a lot of litigation, which is unfortunate for the citizens of Louisiana, but good for the...
But you are not only a lawyer, but you're also a victim of a lot of these circumstances too, aren't you? You lost your house in Katrina.
Sure.
Right?
We lived here in St. Bernard Parish,
right.
Born and raised. And when Katrina came along, we had just purchased a brand new home, brick home, and Katrina leveled the home and left us with a slab.
Yeah.
And from that, just kind of picked up the pieces and tried to move on.
So when somebody comes to you and they tell you they have a problem that relates to something like this, you're familiar with it. You've lived
Sure.
it, right?
And that, yeah, that was part of the success of my practice, was understanding these issues and understanding what these people were going through.
Right.
And to kind of hold their hand and kind of walk them through it.
One of the cases that you're representing right now is the reason we're here. You are representing Charlie's Restaurant and Catering because of why? Tell our audience.
Well, after the citizens of Louisiana recovered from Katrina, we were hit with the BP oil spill in April 2010. As a result of the oil spill, many of the local restaurants and local fishermen sustained damages ranging from just loss of income to increased prices in seafood. In addition to losing revenue from lack of customers in a lot of restaurants, many of the local people came into a problem with entering into agreements with British Petroleum to attempt to facilitate the recovery process.
Right.
And as a result of that, many local people were left kind of holding the bag. They didn't fulfill their end of the agreement, didn't make it right, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. And Charlie's Restaurant was providing a catering service to feed some of the cleanup workers, weren't they?
That is correct.
And something like, what, 1,200 meals a day?
Yeah, BP employees were shipped down to St. Bernard Parish in an effort to clean up the oil spill, and these people had to be fed. And they were searching for different local businesses to try and feed their workers. And
Right.
my client was one of those individuals who stepped up to the plate and said, look, I can help you out, I can cater your workers.
Now, we're going to be showing on the screen here some invoices which were signed by BP, right?
Correct.
And also signed by Charlie's Restaurant, correct?
That is correct.
Where they had a specific clause in there, and tell us about that clause.
Right. It's a very basic contract. It wasn't a multiple page document.
Yeah, and it wasn't trickery or anything like that. It was for a purpose, wasn't
right.
it?
And at first it was a handshake. My client had a handshake with the guy from BP and said, look, we're going to provide food to your workers. Here's the price. It's laid out,
Right.
not expensive at all. And he did that for a few days. And ultimately, when they said, okay, you can do the job, let's step it up a notch. You're going to provide 400 meals for breakfast, 400 meals for lunch, 400 meals for dinner.
Yeah.
So when my guy went out to purchase the food to secure the product, he wanted to make sure that he's not buying hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of food, and then tomorrow they say, guess what, we don't need
Yeah,
you.
he didn't want to be stuck for the food.
Stuck with the food.
Right.
So what he did is he inserted a clause into the one-page menu, which laid out the price, that said, look, if you ever want to cancel this contract, give us a 2 weeks notice. Just let us know that you don't need us.
And they signed it 43 times.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
No surprise.
No surprise, black and white, no boilerplate language or anything like that. Said, look, if you don't want to use us, give us 2 weeks notice.
Just looking to protect himself.
That's all they wanted to do.
What happened? Why are we here today?
Well, we're here today because ultimately he got stuck holding the bag. He went out and purchased thousands of dollars worth of food in an attempt to uphold his end of the bargain, which was to provide this catering service. And ultimately he gets a phone call one day and says, we don't need you. He tried to explain to him, well, look, I just purchased all this food. What am I going to do with it? We don't care. It's not our problem. And ultimately he tried to find someone who would speak to him, from BP, and give him a reason why they didn't need him. First of all, they didn't even tell him why they didn't want to use the services. And then number two, to say, look, pay me, number one, for the work that I've already done. And number two, what about the 2 weeks notice that you were supposed to give me? No response.
Right. By the way, in a little bit we're going to have Chad on here. But Chad, I want our audience to know, is not the kind of a person that sues people. In fact, this is his first lawsuit, right?
Yes.
How long did he put up with BP not answering him and paying him for that extra 2 weeks that they owed him?
Well, actually, it was a long time, several months.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be paid immediately after he provided the service. I think it ended up taking several months before he was ultimately paid, 3 months or something like that, before he was actually paid for the work that he had already done. And there was a question whether or not he would even receive that, which he was out hundreds of thousands, and they hadn't paid the bill in several months. He was showing up at the local speeches that were given by Mr. Feinberg, where he would come and visit the local populace and say, BP's going to make it right. We're here to accommodate everyone and make sure you are compensated for your damages. he wasn't trying to get damages. He was trying to get paid for work that he had actually performed.
Yeah.
And it fell on deaf ears.
So you took up the mantle. You sent them letters. Were they answered?
No. Ultimately, I had to get involved and sent a barrage of letters out. Again.
And then finally, you've had to sue them, correct?
Ultimately, we did have to follow up.
Because they're not responding.
Correct.
And this is the small people that the chairman of BP was talking about.
Right.
Adding them to the list of the victims they've already got, right?
The same people that they're trying to make it right for, they won't even respond to them.
So basically, this is a breach of contract, isn't it?
In essence, that's correct.
And that's the main emphasis you're suing on behalf, right?
Very simple contract. Correct.
Okay, good. What I'm going to do now is, we fortunately, since we're here at Charlie's Restaurant, we're going to bring on Chad, who's the owner, and we're going to have him tell a little bit about all the misery that he's gone through trying to help BP clean up their mess. So let's do that right now. We're lucky enough to have Chad Blanchard here today. He's the owner of this restaurant. Welcome to the show, Chad.
Thank you. How you doing?
Tell us a little bit about your whole experience with BP.
Well, when it first happened, I watched it on the news. I was a little concerned about our seafood industry and my business. So I sent out a bunch of emails to BP and some of my local officials, you know, letting them know my concern and that I'm a restaurant in the area and that if y'all needed any help, because I knew it was going to be right on my back door, considering where it was located at, that we would have some people to feed out here. So I sent out some emails in late April, around the 28th of April.
And you got a response from, I think, Paul Pettibone. Is it Pettibone?
I believe so.
From BP, who said that they wanted you to provide catering.
Well, I got a call from my local official asking me if I could provide 100 meals in about lunchtime, which was about 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I told him, yeah, I could make that happen, and I did. Delivered it down there on time for lunch, and at that moment is when I met Paul.
And he worked for BP.
An employee
correct?
of BP.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was Paul.
So he gave you the contract, basically. It was a handshake in the beginning, correct?
Yeah, in the beginning they wasn't sure if I was capable of maintaining the situation, because it was such a vast amount of people that they wasn't going to sign a contract with me in the beginning. So till about 2 weeks. And about 2 weeks happened, they knew I could handle the job, and that's when I brought the contract in, a small, you know, basically
a menu with a few words on it. That
Yeah, it's an invoice, right? And it says on there,
Right.
basically, if you terminate me, please give me a 2-week notice. You're
Correct.
required to give me a 2-week notice.
so I wouldn't get stuck with the product.
Yeah, because you have to buy the food in advance. You can't buy it that morning, right?
No, it has to be bought at least 4 or 5 days prior in
And
order to
so
see.
your contract lasted for about 30 days, right? 32
Correct.
days, something like
about
that.
30 days.
And then what happened?
I was terminated on a Saturday morning. Right, I was Saturday morning after I served breakfast out of a boat shed, because that's where I originally started at. I was working in a boat shed.
Yeah.
With no electricity, no air conditioning, no nothing.
Yeah.
I was roughing
So
it in
you're
the
one
swamp
of
with
you're one of the small people, the little people that the chairman of BP was talking about, where we care about them.
Definitely. Yes.
And basically, how long has it been now that they owe you this money?
Over a year.
Over a year. And when you got paid, you did get paid some money.
Correct.
For some of the meals, the majority of the
but
meals.
even that took several months.
That took
Yes.
several months. Okay.
Took almost, yes, good while.
Now, I understand. What do you think the reasons are that they terminated your contract? And before you answer that question, I'm going to show on the screens some customer compliments that you got, and we're showing them right now, that from many of the people that you were, feeding there. They said you had great food, everything was great. Why do you think they terminated your contract?
At this moment, I'm really unsure how and why they terminated my contract. I have many thoughts.
Yeah.
But which ones are actually the real?
Yeah. Wasn't there another company, Bruce? TKO.
TKO was another company that was brought in
Right.
to kind of take over the entire catering service.
Yes. And they kind of muscled you out, didn't they?
It's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good description of that, isn't it?
There were several instances where some things happened that we involved them in the lawsuit to more or less explain what happened, delivering faulty equipment.
They provided you equipment to...
Right. On my last day when I was terminated, I was still working in the boat shed. I served breakfast that morning inside the boat shed, and they called me up saying the tent's ready. We're ready to go inside this tent. We want you to serve lunch in there.
Well, the tent's being provided by TKO now.
Yeah. Correct. TKO was being providing the tent and the equipment, and supposedly watching over everyone, make sure that everything was quote unquote being done correctly.
Yes.
So that day during lunch when I arrived there, the equipment that I had to use, which was a very small piece of equipment to serve 400 meals, was broken. It didn't work. So when I transferred my product into their steam table that was over 20 years old, it didn't work. So I was forced to put it back into my insulated containers to try to keep it as hot as possible, which I did.
Right.
I didn't serve any cold food, but from what I understand, they terminated me for was because I was serving out of insulated containers, which kept the food hot because their equipment was broken.
Yeah.
Right. And coincidentally, they ultimately took over your job as well.
That day, I lost my job, and that was it.
Yeah, and I understand.
And I was left with everything in the bag, all this product.
Yeah, and I understand that the new people we're charging BP more money. Is that right?
Approximately twice as much.
Twice as much money.
As what you were charging.
I would say
so all you're looking to do here right now is basically have them live up to their word, right?
Correct.
Which the invoice that we have shown shows that they agreed to pay if they terminate you 2 weeks to give you fairness, right?
Correct.
Right.
I was just protecting myself and my business.
Now, I understand that you think that there may be some, let's say, conspiracy between TKO and some of the parish officials. Is that correct?
Right. Well, it's in the early stages of litigation, and part of litigation, as you know, involves the discovery process. And we have a lot of questions that are unanswered. Just by virtue of the people that are providing the equipment, it shows up faulty, and then coincidentally they replace my client within a short period of time, raises some questions. And we know that the one of the owners of this business has a close relationship with a local elected official, and we don't know exactly what happened.
But you're
going to
find out.
But we're going to find out.
If you could say one thing to BP right now, what would you say to them?
Make it right. Take care of the people that tried to help take care of you.
Right.
Do exactly what you're going.
And by the way, when you say take care of the people, you were feeding the cleanup workers at Hopedale, right down.
That's correct.
Right down the road here.
In the very beginning, when there was nothing there,
they had no
available.
food. They would not be able to clean up anything. You were there.
No electricity, nothing. And nothing available.
Okay, good.
And I was there in the mosquito infested. I was up at 2 in the morning, and I wasn't asleep till 10 at night, and I did that every day for 30 days.
Yeah. Okay, well, we hope this TV show is going to make it right. Wouldn't it be wonderful if nobody had to file lawsuits, right?
Would be a beautiful thing.
You'd be out of business, wouldn't
it? It would be a beautiful thing if everybody got
But the bottom line is you had to file this lawsuit. You should have gotten paid.
Definitely.
And we certainly hope that as a result of the lawsuit and this TV show, that maybe somebody might step up to the plate. But this is not the way business should be conducted, is it?
No, you shouldn't have to resort to filing a lawsuit or going on TV or anything like that. It should be conducted with a handshake like my client originally tried.
Right. If an oil company came up to you today and said, hey, let's do business, what would be your first thing that you would do?
Call my lawyer.
Call my lawyer.
Call your lawyer.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and get a signed contract.
Get some kind of, definitely, because they don't do business like I'm used to.
But we gave them the benefit of the doubt.
I definitely gave them the benefit of doubt. I've been catering for 17 years, and every job I've ever done was a handshake job.
Yeah.
Every one.
Well, that's the way things are done usually. I mean, what good is a contract if you're not willing to step up to the plate?
Correct.
Right?
And I'm all about great food and making sure my clients come back.
Yeah, and we, by the way, we will be back because you served us great food this morning, and we really appreciate it. It was good. And I want to thank both of you for being on the program. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.